Welcome to the October 12th Administration and Public Works Committee meeting. We have a quorum. Alderman Suffredin, will you read in the virtual ordinance, please?
Sure. I move that we utilize the Zoom platform to conduct this meeting remotely pursuant to Governor Pritzker's orders related to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Is there a second? Alderman Rainey, did we lose you? I could second it, right?
I second it. I can't get.
Okay, thank you.
And Alderman Braithwaite is joined.
Perfect. Welcome, Alderman Braithwaite.
And I'll take the roll on that. Alderman Braithwaite. We can't hear you.
Are we voting or taking attendance, Dave? My apologies.
We're voting on this to allow the virtual meeting.
Oh, yes. Aye.
Alderman Ruth Simmons.
Aye.
Alderman Suffredin.
Aye.
Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. A1, approval of minutes of regular Administration and Public Works Committee meeting of September 29th, 2020 is for action.
Second.
Alderman Braithwaite.
Aye.
Alderman Ruth Simmons.
Aye.
Alderman Suffredin.
Aye.
Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. And next we have public comment. You said we had Mike Basilko.
That's correct. And it looks like he's joining by phone. I'm going to ask Mike if you can hit *6 to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Unmuted.
Yes, we hear you.
Okay. So just a couple of things. First of all, since I guess I'm the only speaker, I would like to know which city manager candidate is being negotiated with at this time. I see no reason why you can't divulge who that person is. Second, I would like to know from each of the aldermen who they voted for of the three candidates. And again, I see no reason why you can't do that. Specifically regarding AP&W, once again, you're spending over $5.5 million for a variety of expenses. I'd really appreciate if one of these times the alderman could really just eliminate some of those costs. For instance, why do we have to continue spending? Why do we have to spend right now additional monies on more streetlights? Seems like that's something that could be postponed. So I'd appreciate some fiscal prudence, but most of all, I'd like to hear the answers to my first two questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Basilko. And next we have A1 and A2. Alderman Rainey, will you take A1 and A2, please?
I would, but could you pass me, because I can't bring up my,
No problem. I'll do
I
it.
can't bring up my agenda.
A1.
So please do A1 and A2 separately, please.
Do them separately?
Yes. Do item A1 and then do item A2.
Well, how else will we do it?
You asked her to do item A1 and A2. I just want to make sure that they're separate items because I need them to be separate.
Okay. A1, staff recommends City Council approval of the City of Evanston payroll for the period of September 14th, 2020 through September 27th, 2020 in the amount of $2,180,658.54. Bills list for October 13th, 2020 in the amount of $5,457,303.29. And credit card activity for the period ending July 26, 2020 in the amount of $179,219.44. This is for action.
Second.
Do we need to take a roll call on each item?
Yes.
Okay.
Alderman Braithwaite.
Aye.
Alderman Ruth Simmons.
Aye.
Alderman Suffredin.
Aye.
Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
And yes, Alderman Ruth Simmons, there is no consent agenda tonight. Everything's for consideration.
Thank you. Motion passes. A2, staff recommends approval of the City of Evanston's BMO Harris Amazon credit card activity for the period ending July 26, 2020 in the amount of $28,136.29 is for action.
Second.
Alderman Braithwaite,
Aye.
Alderman Ruth Simmons,
Aye.
Alderman Sufferton,
I abstain.
Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
Motion passes. Item A3, Alderman Sufferton.
Sure. Item A3 is approval of a sole source purchase of Talmadge Street light poles. Staff recommends the city council authorize the city manager to approve the purchase of 10 Talmadge street light poles and LED luminaire fixtures under the existing sole source agreement with Spring City Electrical Manufacturing for the total cost of $43,750. Funding for this purchase will come from the Capital Improvement Program 2020 General Obligation Bonds, which has a fiscal year 2020 budget of $128,000 for streetlight replacements. The remaining balance in the account is $61,023. This is for action. And I actually have a question.
Can we get a second?
Second.
Second.
Alderman Sufferton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Director Stoneback, is one of these poles going to make it to Central Street in Lawndale, the spot where we've got a cone over a rusted out base?
I believe we've already ordered 10 poles and they are coming in faster than what these 10 will. And yes, that is one of we have 12 sites that are without a light right now. And we will make sure that Central Street is a higher priority to make sure it gets a new pole.
Much appreciated. Thank you very much.
If there's no further discussion, we'll take a vote.
Alderman Braithwaite,
Aye.
Alderman Ruth Simmons,
Aye.
Alderman Sufferton,
Aye.
Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
Motion passes. A4, staff recommends,
Oh, I'm sorry.
were you saying something,
I'm
Alderman Rainey?
just going to tell you, I have my agenda now.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. A4, staff recommends city council adoption of resolution 84R20, extending the declared state of emergency to November 9th, 2020. It's for action.
Second.
Any discussion? We're ready for a vote?
Alderman Braithwaite,
Aye.
Alderman Ruth Simmons,
Aye.
Alderman Sufferton,
Whoa.
Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
Motion passes. Alderman Braithwaite, A5, please.
Yes, Madam Chair. This is for action item, resolution 77-R-20, designating Harvard Park as Harvard Payne. Staff's recommending the city council adoption, and I think we have this already ready, but park funding new signage comes from Capital Improvement Fund. This is for action.
Second.
Any discussion?
And item, oops, sorry. I have to wait.
Alderman, roll call.
Yes, please.
Alderman Braithwaite,
Aye.
Alderman Ruth Simmons,
Aye.
Alderman Sufferton,
Aye.
Alderman Rainey.
Aye.
Motion passes. Alderman Rainey, A6.
Did you want me to take item A6 as well, Alderman Simmons?
Oh, please, go ahead. Thank you.
Sure. Item A6 is also for action. This is resolution 80-R20, authorizing the city manager to execute a contract amendment to the commercial business, institutional, multifamily residential buildings waste services agreement with Groot to extend the said agreement. Staff recommends the city council adoption of this resolution, authorizing the city manager to execute a contract addendum with the commercial businesses, institutional, multifamily residential buildings waste services agreement with Groot. And how long, first,
What?
Second.
okay, it's been moved. Dave, can you just high level give us a quick overview of this? How many years is this one that we're extending it?
One.
Just one?
It's a 1-year extension, and the reason we're extending it is there was such a loss of service because of COVID.
Sure.
Actually, what's in my memo is a little bit wrong. There was
Okay.
actually, at one point, there was 24% of the customers discontinued service. And
Okay.
somewhere between 40 to 45% of the customers currently have a reduced service level.
Okay.
So on a lower service level, if we go out to get prices and the service level is lower, the number of customers and the number of times they're picked up, we will get higher prices than what we hope to. And so we're hoping the economy will stabilize and the customers will come back, and we'll be able to get more favorable bids with the same, to have a similar customer base that we did when this initially went out.
Makes sense. Thank you. Thank you, Director.
Alderman Rainey?
That really concerns me, Dave. Are we seeing excess garbage and overflows because people are cutting back on their service?
No, I think that, like, most restaurants are not producing the same amount of waste as they had in the past, just because they aren't serving to as many customers.
Yeah, well, are we tracking residential though? I mean, because those people are home all the time and they are making more garbage. I know I am at my house.
Right. And this is for the multifamily homes, and we have not seen an issue with that.
Yeah.
No.
All right. I just think we should keep an eye out for that, because I know in the past, and Peter, I know you, and I know Alderman Holmes and Alderman Hammond, we have tracked that, and we were told all along that group was going to report where there was excess garbage, and and we don't really get that from them. So that's why I'm asking.
I'm sorry, I could share those with you. I do get those reports from them on a monthly basis.
Okay.
And we work with them, and they are consciously contacting the property managers at those locations to have them modify or increase their service level. And when it gets to a point where the same property is listed several times, that's when the city steps in and also goes after those properties.
Right.
Dave, thank you, Alderman Rainey. Dave, is it possible to start receiving those reports again? And for the benefit, Alderman Rainey, for bringing it up, for anyone who's watching the video trying to figure out what we're talking about, in our wards, the 2nd, 5th, and 8th, we received a lot of complaints regarding the current vendor service. And so myself, Alderman Holmes at the time, and Alderman Rainey met with representatives along with the director, and we came up with whether it was a monthly, quarterly reporting system that showed repeat offenders, and then we were able to work with either the company or the residential units. This was typically for like the larger entities. We're not just talking about residential trash. Our staff does an amazing job correcting that. But for our large buildings and also larger businesses, we were aware of it whenever there were some issues. So, Dave, can we continue to receive those reports or start receiving those reports again?
Yes, I will make sure that happens, sir.
That would be helpful. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Alderman Rainey.
While we're on the subject, for those that are watching, to Alderman Braithwaite's point, please call 311 in the that you see overflow. And I just want to give a public thank you to Director Stoneback and his team for helping us with a property and getting some enforcement with the property owner in the ward and getting it all cleaned up and a solution within 1 week. Happy residents over there. Dave, I still get a thank you every other day from the residents over there on how quickly we were able to respond to that, Director, excuse me. So thank you for your hard work on that. But you got to call 311, so do that. Can we take a roll call vote on that?
Yep.
Alderman Braithwaite?
Aye.
Alderman Ruth Simmons?
Aye.
Alderman Sufferton?
Aye.
Alderman Rainey?
Aye.
Motion passes. Alderman Rainey, A7, please.
Yes. This is Resolution 83R20, authorizing the city manager to sign the third amendment to the agreement for purchase and sale of 2222 Oakton between the City of Evanston and Clark Street Real Estate, LLC. I move approval, and if I have a second, I'd like to speak to it. Alderman Simmons?
Is there a second?
Second.
Alderman Rainey?
Yes, I'd like a few minutes for my presentation, which I'm going to read. Please vote no on extending the recycling center contract. Here are the issues. This contract will once again expire today on October 12, 2020. We have extended this contract twice since the original signing. We are legally able to not renew this contract with the new entity, S Point Ventures LLC. Here is what is being requested. The contract we have for the sale of 2222 Oakton, the former recycling center, is with Clark Street Real Estate. The principal of that organization is Andy Stein. We are now being asked to extend the contract with a new organization, which is not the issue, because Clark Street Real Estate no longer exists and S Point Ventures LLC is the new purchaser with Andy Stein as the principal. We are told that the same investors are involved. The new S Point Ventures is asking for a 6-month extension through May 31 so that the First Ascent can continue to assess their status. They are then asking for a second extension through October 31, 2021, so that they can work on receiving approvals, including building permits, etc. They are hoping to acquire the property by November 30, 2021. I am asking you, the Evanston City Council, to say this deal is done. I understand that everyone has issues with COVID-19, and rock climbing walls are not that compatible with the virus at this time. However, I did hear from the developer that First Ascent is being courted by various malls with vacant spaces in the city of Evanston. Given that the recycling center is on the western city limits of our town, I'm certain other geography will be just as attractive to climbers, if not more so, as the Evanston western border, not to mention their opportunity for parking, etc., will be much greater if located, let's say, in Old Orchard. Paul Zelmazak points out in his cover letter, 2222 has been under contract for 20 months, 7 of which, only 7, have been during COVID. I want to point out to you, at the same time you chose this developer and his tenant, First Ascent, 2 other interested parties, Palm House Event and the Rebuilding Warehouse, were interested in acquiring this location. Palm House submitted a formal proposal. Rebuilding Warehouse did not. Palm House was turned down as not being capable of going forward. It is interesting to note that today, Palm House is in the final throes of finalizing the complete restoration of the Sherwin-Williams building at 619 Howard Street, a flexible 300-plus seat event space that is just unbelievable, in my humble opinion. And Rebuilding Warehouse just had a grand opening of their new location. What more can I say? Imagine both of these small business entities, Palm House Events and the Rebuilding Warehouse, 20 months ago, neck and neck with Clark Street Real Estate and fast-growing First Ascent, managed to go forward and accomplish exactly what they set out to do 20 months ago. Times have changed. Sale of 2222 Oakton for $1 million or so to a retail developer who has a potential tenant and that needs another year to decide whether or not they can perform is the worst deal in town. I ask you, my colleagues, to please vote no on this extension. Our staff has many uses for this location, and now is not the time to dispose of one of the most needed, least costly to operate city properties in town. Thank you. Also, late this afternoon, Dave Stoneback provided us with a several-page document exploring the needs of the city for this facility, and I'm hoping Dave will give a presentation regarding that document. I don't have it in front of me, but I did ask Erica to provide it to all the aldermen. Dave, can you go over that?
Yes, and it was a document that was included in the original packet back in June of 2019 when this was up for sale. It elaborated on what the storage needs are, not only for public works, but also for fleet and facilities and park recreation in the boats that they store. So there's a lot of items that are stored at the recycling center, and then specifically during the winter time, we store materials that we would use to backfill trenches, stone and sand, as well as asphalt mix that we can use to restore the road. And while we don't normally do construction during the winter months, we do have a lot of main breaks and potentially sewer failures as well. So that's why we like to keep those materials there. This is also a time that we store the boats that are used at the lakefront. We store that in the recycling center. Another goal of Public Works is to do tree stump removal during the winter months. And then if we had to heat a space, we would keep black dirt stored in the warehouse as well, so that we could do parkway restorations after we stumped a tree. We have more and more material stock that we need to store at locations too. Just the type of chipstones that are used between the paver blocks at Fountain Square are different than all the other chipstones that we
Director,
use.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm just trying to get an understanding just for a point of relevance. Are we currently storing those items in the recycling center at this time, just so I can understand what you're communicating to the committee and public?
Yes, those are the materials that we currently store and use at the recycling center during the winter months. And we use the storage all year long for other apparatus. The plows get stored inside. So it's much better to store our equipment indoors than put them outdoors. It extends the life of the equipment if it's able to be stored indoors rather than outdoors.
What about replacement? Have you've had 20 months to find alternate replacement?
We did go and looked at several storage facilities. Our requirements are somewhat unique in that we require a high ceiling, because we will actually take a front end loader into the building to be able to access the sand or stone that we keep in there. So you need a high ceiling, and you need fairly large overhead garage doors to get this type of equipment in and out, including the boats that get stored inside as well. We did find 3 acceptable facilities. 2 of them are in Lincolnwood. 1 of them is in Morton Grove. We have been unable to find anything in Evanston that would meet our needs. The cost is around $1 per square foot. We believe at a minimum that we would need 23,000 square feet. So if we were to find a facility that would rent for us $1 a square foot at 23,000 square feet, that's $23,000 a month that we would look at to have to pay rent on. The staff realizes that the recycling center is not the ideal location for us.
Oops.
Someone called.
Look, am I here?
Yeah, you're back.
We are prepared to look at options of expanding the service center to potentially add storage space at the service center And that's something that we're going to start breaking into and looking into in 2021. And I believe that there's some funding available for us that would allow us to do that, to have at least a phase one study to see if it's a feasibility study to see whether or not that's a true option that we have.
Well, that being said, this deal that we have right here is, as Paul Zelmasak said to someone recently, this is a fragile deal. This is not the deal we want to go forward with. I know that Clark Street, or the new organization, says that they would allow us to use the storage over the winter, and that's very thoughtful of them. But this deal is done as far as I'm concerned, and I really hope the council will support and not going forward on this. This, enough is enough, and we have every right to cease going forward. The contract is over today, and hopefully I can get support on that. This just never, in my mind, while I did cave in and not really oppose this, I never felt this was the right deal. And given COVID and the outright request for this group to request a year to see if they can get their act together and really provide the use that they're claiming to use it for, it just makes no sense. I mean, $1 million is just, I mean, we're just never going to see that until November, if we see it then, because they are not going to decide until then. So let's just take back this building and let's move on. And that will allow First Descent to move on and maybe accept a much better deal in one of these shopping centers that are talking to them.
Director Stoneback or Paul, the value of comparable storage space based on our current use and needs is at $23,000 a month. Do we also use that space outside of the actual interior warehouse for other types of storage and training? Will we also have to replace that that space as well for whatever? I know that is like maybe fire training or something in that lot.
We can find other sites within Evanston to do that type of purpose. But we do store, right now, the bus is used by Parks Recreation. They are stored outside at the recycling center during the summer months. And then for fleet services, as they have vehicles that they're going to use at the auction or sell at the auction, those vehicles are stored at this site as well, because they need to be in a secured area.
Yeah, the only thing I would add, Alderman Simmons, is while this property has been in a state of kind of RFP or kind of redevelopment process, I don't know if it's been 5 years or somewhere in that range, and there's not been a ton of motivation to commit to finding space and alternative locations for storage. It's because we haven't really been at that point. So I would only add that, but that it's always been the case that we would need to find storage from the very first day we put this on the RFP market.
Thank you, Paul. So a vote not to extend this would terminate our agreement with this particular buyer or potential buyer, but it's not a commitment to anything in the future. And once we decide what we want to do, then they would be open if we were to liquidate it and not come up with some other use. Is that accurate? And then also, did they give us earnest money, and was there an offer of more earnest money or a non-refundable earnest money, or just a request for extension of the contract?
Mr. Stein and Mr. Shepard are both on the call as a point of reference. And there is money, earnest money on this particular deal. In addition to, I believe somewhere in the range of, I think I put it in the memo. I don't want to overestimate it, but it's somewhere in the range of $100,000 in costs. But
No, but they put 50,000 in earnest money, Paul.
I'm
Thank you.
sorry, I didn't.
50,000 in earnest money? Right?
I don't know the answer to that.
No.
Are we gonna allow the applicants to share?
Well, they didn't sign up for public comment. Was there a presentation that we should be made aware of?
I'm sorry, I didn't realize, since this is new, this is my first Zoom public hearing, I didn't realize how to sign up for public comment in the instructions that I received.
Okay, were you prepared to have a comment or a presentation?
If you would be so gracious as to allow John and I to speak, we would appreciate that.
Absolutely, I just didn't know. So thank you, welcome to the meeting, and you guys each have 5 minutes.
Great. John, why don't you let me start and then I'll let you fill in. So just by way of timeline here, because I think that's a little bit of a misleading fact, is we were picked to negotiate a deal with the city on January 14th of 2019. The purchase and sale agreement was executed in July 16th, 2019. We've then gone through a litany of physical due diligence, survey, title review, legal, geotechnical testing, environmental testing, physical testing of the building. Has spent substantial dollars trying to figure that out. In addition, after we've passed our due diligence review, we also have been working very closely with staff to understand the zoning with it, and conducted multiple zoning applications and zoning reviews. In addition, had multiple reviews with the Dapper Committee, and were before the neighborhood and Alderman Rainey twice in that period of time. We had actually submitted our special use permit on the property in the beginning of March this year. So 20 months, yes, from probably the RFP process, but really 7 months for us just to negotiate a contract with the city of Evanston, and then call it maybe another, 12 months of work that had culminated into submitting a zoning application. Obviously, for a variety of reasons, giving forward, we decided, we work with the city to understand a need for an extension because of the COVID pandemic. And I just wanted to highlight to the city that we have been working on this diligently, and have been in clear communication with Alderman Rainey, letting her know everything that went on. Really, it's a business issue as it relates to First Ascent and their business, and how this has impacted their business, along with countless other businesses throughout the world. So I felt like it was good. It was a little helpful for at least me to explain what we've done to date, because it's been a while since we've been before you. But I think it would be helpful, more importantly, to understand John Shepard and First Ascent's commitment to Evanston and their current business situation, which is really has necessitated the ask for the extension. So I'll hand it off to John.
Thank you, Andy, and thank you, Alderman, and everyone else with the City of Evanston. And I'll be brief, and then if anyone has any questions about our status or our interests, I'd be happy to answer them. But I'm guessing a number of you are aware, First Ascent identified Evanston as a community that we wanted to be a part of years ago. We actually submitted for the very first RFP, I believe back in 2015 or earlier for this building. And because of its location next to other outdoor athletic activities, because of the tall heights in the building, because of the parking on site, we've been committed to this project and to Evanston for years. And all of us have put in a lot of effort to analyze the customer base, to analyze why we want to be in this community. Evanston is a very active community. It's a community where we already know we have over 2,000 customers who have come to our climbing gym. And the reason for the delay has nothing to do with any kind of hesitancy about the project as such, except for that during this pandemic, I don't know if there's there are not many small businesses that haven't been hurt or at least slowed down or had with cause to pause and have to, for us, First Ascent during this period, because of the pandemic and because of the shutdown rules on fitness gyms, we've been operating, we were closed for months and now we're operating at about 25% occupancy. And what that's done to us is it's put a delay at our ability to know when we're going to be able to open back up to maybe 50% or 75% or even get back to 100%. And that's caused us to just want to pause and say, we understand the city wants to use the building to store asphalt equipment and beach equipment for the winter, and we thought that was a great opportunity for us to take a step back and see how quickly we can get back up to business as usual. Fingers crossed as the pandemic, maybe as we get a vaccine or as the pandemic winds down. On the bright side, Alderman Rainey, you expressed a question about whether climbing is a good thing to be pursuing during the pandemic. And I think it's a good question. I think on the bright side, rock climbing is not something that people can do at home. It's not something that you can create people aren't really doing home climbing gyms in their garage or things like that, at least nothing like the experience we can provide. So our customers are eager to come back. To keep people safe during the pandemic, we're requiring people to book their slots on their phone ahead of time, and we've been booked up 4 days out ahead of time at our various locations. So we know our customers want to come back. We feel very bright about the future of rock climbing, but we need this period to be able to just get us through the closure period, get us through this restriction at 25% occupancy before we're ready to commit to this project and the significant spend it's going to be on us to put climbing walls and specialized flooring and fitness equipment at this location. So I'll leave it open if anyone has any questions for Andy or I, but we remain committed. We love the Evanston community. We've done so many meetings with your constituents and with you, and we've seen a lot of excitement about this project, and we remain committed and just want to be able to get through the pandemic and make a good decision for our business in the spring.
Okay. I don't have any questions for you, but I do have a question for Dave or Paul. Do we have any expense to carry this? I mean, is it other than our overhead maintenance costs? What do we have? I mean, I don't imagine there's any mortgage. Is there any cost to carry this this property?
I would yield to Director Stoneback. I have to imagine that
it's the least costly property we own to operate.
I'm sure
it is in great shape. It doesn't cost us hardly anything to operate. It's in great shape.
So it's 20 months. I understand that's how long we've been under contract or pending close. Has it been 20 months?
No, it's been under contract for 16 months, perhaps 15 months.
Yeah.
It was selected and through the RFP process approximately 20 months ago.
Got it. Just my opinion is if it's 15 months or 20, that is, a very gracious and appropriate amount of time to close on an agreement. and that the market has changed, conditions change, our needs are being more revealed through storage and other needs on current uses that we can have access to that facility. So I would, and I haven't heard from any residents. I understand that you're saying there's been a high level of community engagement and anticipation of the rock climbing business, and I haven't heard any advocacy there. So with that, I think it's appropriate that we do not extend this agreement any further. Alderman Braithwaite?
Thank you, Alderman Simmons. So Randy, and I may have missed this. I had to step away for a moment to take a call. How much time did you request? Because it isn't spelled out in the.
Yes, it is.
Did I miss
Yes,
it? How much? What are you requesting?
Let me explain to you,
Well,
Peter.
I will, respectful, because I have two other additional questions for him afterwards. You just,
Did you want me to answer that question, Alderman
Please.
Braithwaite, or?
yeah.
Please.
Okay. So we had requested to get through May 31st of 2021. That would allow First Ascent to understand how their business operated in the winter months, and also allow Mr. Stonebeck to utilize the facility through the winter months, and then an approval process, then through October to get through the entitlements and the permit. We already have filed a special use application. In the contract, that approval period goes through building permits. So that's why it's a little lengthier, because there would be review and approval of building permits and then a closing in November of 2021.
And then, Paul, so the sales price at the time was
$1.1 million.
And then I guess my question is, a lot of this is probably due to COVID. Are you still committed to that $1.1 million sales price, or are you going to come back and try to renegotiate for a lower price?
To be honest with you, Alderman Braithwaite, we don't know, and First Ascent does not know how their business is going to be impacted by this. We can analyze it a lot of different ways, but we just don't have the knowledge right now, and First Ascent doesn't have the knowledge, and I'll maybe let John speak to it, of how their business will be impacted by this. Unfortunately, in the summer months, it is typically a lower, is typically not the high season for First Ascent. It's typically in the fall and winter months that more and more, where people are less and less outside, that they see their kind of the peak of their season, if you will. So I do not want to mislead you and say that is something that is acceptable that we could do, because we don't really know what the future would hold for their business and what their projections would be. John, did I characterize that correctly?
That's correct, Andy. I don't know if I have anything to add to that other than to say that, that purchase price was agreed upon when we were operating in the pre-COVID world, and everything for so many small businesses in this world have changed, and a lot about real estate is changing right now. So, I don't think we've committed to trying to change that price, but we're just need to watch our business for the winter and see if we pick back up to where we'd.
Uh-oh.
He's gone. So, Alderman Rainey, with all due respect, so the point of me asking that question is simply this, and I would just share this as a thought. And I respect the fact that the city asset is in the 8th Ward, but I think there's also another.
Alderman Braithwaite. I'm sorry to interrupt, Alderman Braithwaite. Anderson lost the signal to channel 16 in YouTube. I'm wondering if do we want to pause for a couple minutes for him to refresh?
Are we back on both, Luke? Both YouTube and channel 16?
I believe we're good now. Thank you.
Thank you. John, did you want to complete your comment, please?
You're referring to me, John Shepherd?
Yes,
Alderman?
please.
Yep. I don't want to, I don't think I have anything material to add that might be helpful, except to say that, the deal as is was negotiated, and we were really happy to do it in the pre-COVID world. And, given that I don't know what's going to happen during this pandemic, I don't know if it's going to continue for 12 months or longer and how fitness gyms will be impacted. It's hard to make a commitment going forward, but we don't have a plan in place to alter those aspects of the deal. We'd like to get it done, but we do need time to be able to reanalyze how we're going to be able to, how the pandemic is going to affect us getting through the winter and the spring.
So I'll finish my comments and thank you very much for the
This
explanation.
meeting is being recorded.
Meeting's being recorded. So I think given COVID-19, given our budget deficit projection of somewhere between $1 to $2 million as we close our gap and that budget has been released, I think it's a fair request to ask for the additional time given the COVID-19. Now, with that said, Alderman Rainey, I don't think it's fair that during this time that you would be allowed to renegotiate the deal. So I think this is something that definitely deserves to go to full council because there were many members that participated in this conversation. If you were to hold it at that current price, and I don't know what the anticipated or the projected tax revenue is, I think that's fair. But if you're going to use this as a time to renegotiate, at that point, I would pivot back to Alderman Rainey and the rest of City Council. My suggestion would be then to reopen the process and then have you reapply just like everyone else who will have to compete with the exact same factors of COVID with no vaccine in sight. I could understand how your business model is at jeopardy of not working. I mean, there were some other ideas that we had fielded with restaurants, whatever the case may be, but that would be my suggestion, Alderman Rainey.
May I speak now, Peter?
Oh, please.
Thank you.
What I make those rules. You may speak.
That's right. I forgot you were chair, Alderman Simmons.
You couldn't forget that.
Because he spanked me several times during this meeting, if you noticed.
Oh, Alderman Rainey.
Alderman Simmons, I'm speaking to you.
Yes.
First of all, let me correct a few statements. This organization has not been to zoning numerous times, just to correct that. They've been to Dapper a couple of times because they were going to add on a big building in front of the building, and then they changed their mind. So they've not been to zoning several times. The amount of due diligence done regarding zoning and planning has been minimal. As I mentioned, Alderman Braithwaite, I'm not sure you heard, but the two organizations that also wanted this space months and months ago, 20 months ago, 15 months ago, are all up and running, doing exactly what they said. They're very small businesses, and they've spent millions of dollars doing exactly what they said they were going to do 20 months ago. So they weren't big time like Clark Street Real Estate. They're small. So they managed to pull off what they planned to do. And the Evanston City Council said they could never perform at the recycling center. If we had selected one of them, they would have been up and running by now. Okay, that's one thing. I think we're being taken advantage by a big developer here, a moderate-sized developer who acts like a big developer. We're being taken advantage of. We don't need this developer. We have a very expensive use right now. If we were to replace Dave Stoneback and his use at some other location, we'd be paying $250,000 a year minimum in rent. Not to mention if they charged us heat or whatever, because some of his uses require heat. So in 4 years, we would have paid the price we're going to get for this location, except for the fact we're hearing little hints that we're not going to get $1.1 million for this property. Believe me, we're not going to get $1.1 million for this property. You've heard the hints. If we even get anything, if we don't get the rock climbing people, we're going to get a strip mall there or something similar. And if you recall, I used those words at the beginning. We did not contract with the user of this property, which was a huge mistake for a municipality to make, but that's not our fault. That is our fault, and we should be more careful next time. So we contracted with a developer who's going to rent the space to a tenant of his. The tenant is now telling us after 20 months, I don't care how you calculate it, it's more or less 20 months. The tenant is now directing the developer, we need another year to determine whether or not we can function. All right, so we've got COVID, we have to deal with it. And the way we deal with it is we say, all right, you've had 20 months, we can't deal with this anymore. It is legal to tell you we're going to cut bait here. The contract is no longer valid. Maybe in a couple of years, we'll be ready to sell this place again. You have other facilities you're struggling with. In 2 years, come back. We might be ready to sell this place again. But there's no need for us to have this noose around our neck called Clark Street Development. There's no need for it. Let them go. I'll give them back the $50,000. I vote yes. Give them back the $50,000. Let them go. Let's stop the pain. Period.
So is there any other discussion? Alderman Braithwaite, did you have any further comment?
No, I think I was pretty clear. If they're talking about renegotiating the price, then terminate it, is basically what I said.
Yeah, I see it as
We're only going to talk about renegotiating the price in November of 2021. I don't want to do that.
Right. So to Alderman Rainey's point, without some of her references and language, I agree that we, it's due diligence this long, the capacity, the scope that you are presenting. I mean, it should not have been this complex. And to her point, we do have two other very small organizations that have accomplished their proposed use for the similar site, and they're doing well, and we're celebrating them. I think it is unreasonable to extend an agreement for further due diligence and wait and see approach on what COVID does to your business model. And I think the developer, I do agree, we maybe misstepped in negotiating with the developer versus directly with the tenant. So I think we can go ahead and take a vote on this unless there's any further comment. Alderman Suffredin, did you have any comment? Okay, so Director Stonebat, will you call the roll?
Alderman Braithwaite,
No.
Alderman Ruth Simmons,
No.
Alderman Suffredin,
Yes.
Alderman Rainey,
No,
The motion fails to extend the purchase agreement or contract with the developer. A8, staff recommends City Council adoption of ordinance 92-020, amending section 1011-5C, schedule VC of the city code to establish a three-way stop control at the intersection of Foster and Dewey Avenue. Funding will be through the general fund. Traffic control supplies with a budget of $58,000 and a remaining balance of $8,455. I am requesting that we suspend the rules for introduction and action at the council meeting. Thank you. And so thank you to the residents that are helping us keep our residents, pedestrians safe, particularly in this area. There is a lot happening. We have the families that are being served at Fleetwood Jourdain, at Family Focus, which includes the Child Infant Welfare Center, as well as Kingsway Prep, which is in school right now, our 5th Ward school. You should learn more about it. And then also we have Faith Temple Church. So very, very densely populated, a lot of pedestrian traffic. There's been some concerns of safety. Thank you to the residents that brought this to our attention. And thank you again to Director Stoneback for getting this handled for us very quickly. Director, can you take the roll call vote?
Yes. Alderman Braithwaite?
My apologies. There needs to be the motion to suspend the rules.
Oh, thank you.
So move.
Second?
Okay, this is a roll to suspend the rules. Alderman Braithwaite?
Aye.
Alderman Ruth Simmons?
Aye.
Alderman Sufferton?
Aye.
Alderman Rainey?
Aye.
And then a motion to adopt ordinance 92-020.
So moved.
Alderman Braithwaite?
Aye.
Alderman Ruth Simmons?
Aye.
Alderman Sufferton?
Aye.
Alderman Rainey?
Aye.
Motion passes for the 3-way stop at Foster and Dewey, otherwise known as Carlos Moody and Dolores Holmes Way. But either way, any items for discussion? Are there any items for communication? So before we get a motion to adjourn, I've been receiving correspondence that the broadcast is going in and out. And if we could definitely get that fixed by our next meeting, some residents are concerned they weren't able to hear the full discussion. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So
So
moved.
moved.